really, what I want to say is that today we're here to hear from people who are making a difference in multiple locations. Beyond space, they're changing the world in the way that they do that. But before we jump into our distinguished panel, you cannot say thank you enough. And as we talked about the journey, you don't do anything by yourself. A dear friend of mine, Julie Van Cleek, was former vice president at Aerospace Rocketdyne. She said, you build teams and you don't work alone. You build teams and you don't work alone. So moving on, we want to show you a quick video that's going to kind of encapsulate in less than 2 minutes what I would take 30 minutes to say.
We know for sure that the next generation, considered Gen Z, and the corporations that will be hiring them, value STEM literacy, which are a set of 6 ideas that we have founded and have placed in our logo. These are 6 waves that we believe are critical to success in life as well as career. And those 6 concepts begin with persistence behavior, collaborative leadership, design thinking, communicating and setting lofty goals, being able to work with others, and be creative and critical thinking. And so we have, at its core, built innovative programs for the sole purpose of teaching those 6 concepts. Interstellar Dreams Space Center had the good fortune to be selected by NASA to host Artemis 1 launch watch party. Thank you to Google that they hosted our breakfast, and they brought to the table Vinton Cerf, the father of the internet. And he explained to us that the next iteration of the internet includes interplanetary internet.
This whole thing about space and kids is perfect, right? Kids love dinosaurs and space. I mean, that's how you get them interested in science and technology. So this whole Interstellar Dreams idea is fabulous for...
Che Bolden talks about and represents the next generation of where we're going with the commercial space industry, including tourism.
And let's continue to push ideas like Interstellar Dreams.
The Interstellar Dreams Space Center is on track for opening its doors to its 40,000 square foot facility in 2024. But in order to do that, we are in the process now of working with our corporate partners and community leaders to raise $5 million to ensure that we can bring the programming and the staff needed.
Thank you, Che. I appreciate his guidance. Che started a program called InterAstra. He invited 100 people to come together for a weekend, and we talked about what is necessary to launch this goal. His guidance, his support has allowed us to gain momentum, so thank you. I appreciate that. Next, we are now ready to start talking about what we need. And we're just going to show you pictures because we don't want to take too much more time, but we know that we're talking about the cislunar economy. For many of us, it might be a new terminology that you haven't known about. But simply put, it is the area from low Earth orbit, and these experts will correct me if I'm wrong, low Earth orbit to and around the moon. This area is full of business opportunities, and we want to make sure that we are bringing the next generation into the conversation, not only as workforce, but as entrepreneurs. And in order to do that, there's some things we need to do early, and that is the purpose of Interstellar Dreams. It has a purpose to develop the next generation workforce. Because we believe that the Earth and the universe beyond belongs to all of us. and that there are STEM careers in aerospace beyond being an astronaut. And that is our conversation. We know that top-tier talent is needed. They need to take those advanced math and science courses in middle school. They need to be nurtured and to be told that we need you. We need you if you want to be a lawyer. We need you if you want to be a doctor. We need you if you want to be an architect. We need you if you're interested in food, health, and wellness. We need you. And we especially need women and girls. We know that the pipeline that we're about to develop will be 1 million strong, and we will make sure that this group knows that they are needed. We're invested in talent development specifically for the role of critical thinking as a primary talent asset. We're not looking to develop people who know robotics. We're not looking to develop people who do coding. You might. I need you to learn how to think. And we need to teach our teachers in the school system. We're working with Fairfax County Public Schools at this time, but we definitely want to work with Loudoun County and all the other counties in the area. My background is in advanced thinking, and I specialize in the steps of critical thinking. And so, in essence, we're using space exploration as an excuse. We know Generation Z is ready to go. And so finally, our purpose is to increase women leaders and entrepreneurs. Our purpose is to embed critical thinking skills in anything they do, because we believe critical thinking will solve problems. You don't have to plan to go to space to do critical thinking, but we do want you to know when you're critically thinking. We don't want you to think, I'm critically thinking right now. How do you know? And so our team are experts, so you know, it's called metacognition. So you know I am critically thinking right this second. And I don't care what you're thinking about, your budget, how to clean water in Mississippi, or how to keep our environment safe. We have 6 pillars. They're in our logo. They're waves. And these ideas are based on research. We know that Stanford University launched design thinking, and so we embed design thinking, setting and achieving lofty goals, persistence behavior. This isn't easy. What do you do when it's hard? And so we lean into a concept called self-efficacy, not necessarily confidence. Everybody has confidence, but what do you do when you get knocked down? And that's called self-efficacy. Precision and accuracy, collaborative leadership, that's what this is. And communicating problem-solving ideas. Not a complainer, a person that can see the problem and come up with the solution and suggest it, get along with others. Julie Van Cleek said, you've got to bring people along. Thank you once again to the College of Science. This is where we are now, currently. This is the College of Science Interstellar Dreams Mission Control. We want them to have a space station. The space station is to have LED walls. We'd like to open up mission control and space station and a planetary habitat, which you've seen designed around the room. And we want to have learning centers. And if you should help us, if you should decide to help us, we have ways to celebrate you. We will customize your sponsorships. And I don't know if that's gonna play, but these walls are walls that can be used not only for your corporate training, it can be used for college training, and it can be used for the next generation so they can feel like they are actually involved in their real world experience. We would like to have a mission control, which we have so far. They just need an LED wall in there. We'd like to have a space station. This is our obelisk came up with a rendering of a planetary habitat. This would be this room wrapped in LED walls, and when you look out the window, you see Mars, you see the moon. You might be above the Earth, you could be somewhere else. But then you would be involved in your problem-based learning, but you are not distracted by the beautiful fall leaves. You would actually see the Mars surface. We believe that these learning modules are important to the experiential and simulated type opportunities. The new generation is used to VR. They're used to, and they're planning on being part of the metaverse. Meta's here, right? Where is he? We had a representative from, there he is. Okay. And so he is explaining to and guiding us, so we're already designing lessons that include the metaverse. So this is a journey, and we want you to join us. We are looking to have you help us. You are our sponsors. We will design a sponsorship program for you and your company. We want to give you a pipeline of workforce, and our panel will tell you today why that's important. Our panel is made up of Honorable Charles F. Bolden Jr., former astronaut. How many people do you know have left the planet? He's left several times. Also, he was former head of NASA. And with that, I'm thinking he's an expert on critical thinking, problem solving, and leadership and communication. So when he speaks, I listen. Next, we have Deborah Factor from Airbus, and she is head of space, defense, and everything that comes under that for Airbus. Welcome. Thank you. My thought is that she's got her finger on the pulse of next and what we need to prepare for. I want to put together a group of workforce people for her, especially women, right? Next, we have Christy Monaco. Christy was kind enough to step in for Rhonda Schrank, and Christy is also Vice President of United States Geospatial Intelligence Foundation. So there are multiple platforms that we need to think about beyond commercial, right? We need to think about the safety of our planet, our country. And that's what falls into their hands. We have several people here today that are experts in that area. So we want to make sure we're listening. Space Force, we met at George Mason. We had an astronaut who had just gone up with Space Force. And so we were told there's some things we need to be focused on. Finally, we have Dr. Fernando Morales Wilhelm. And he is the leader, the dean of the College of Science at George Mason University. We hope to guide his students through our funnel and our pipeline to you. And we hope, we've met many of their students, they're amazing. And he's got big plans to integrate not only the astronomy, engineering, other areas of the school. So there's no separation between groups. This is an interdisciplinary endeavor. And with their guidance, do you think Interstellar Dreams can nail it? All righty. I'm going to turn this over to Rachel. Rachel? There she is. Rachel has come to us, good fortune. I have a good friend named Cassie Cloberdans Lee. She's been helping me for the last 3 years with our Blaze Entrepreneurial Accelerator. And so we're getting ready to go into year 3. And Cassie said, there's a lady you need to meet. And her name is Rachel Cheatham. Rachel has been a consultant to commercial space companies. And she's going to take the lead today to ask questions, but we also want to leave room for other information that this distinguished panel can share that maybe we just didn't know to ask. So don't feel locked in. You might want to say, you know what you need to know? and we're listening. So thank you. We're talking about the cislunar economy. We're going to walk away on what do our students need to know, and it will impact what we design for our program. Please give a round of applause to Rachel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. Big thank you to Robin and everybody here who is supporting this really important mission. Because we are running a little bit low on time, and I'm sure everybody is, their blood is not in their brains right now. So we're going to have a really great conversation to make you think about these things, as Robin had mentioned. And so just a quick show of hands, who understands or knows, aside from what Robin just taught us, what cislunar means or what the cislunar economy is? Anybody who's ever heard of it? Okay, so we've got a room that really might not really understand it. So we're going to kick off this panel discussion with each of the panelists telling us what cislunar is and what the cislunar economy is and what opportunities they think are within that specific zone or that sphere for the next generation that's coming up. So Charlie? Deborah? No? Are you sure? All right, I'm going to go with Deborah. But you guys...
I wanted to go to Deborah because I had to go look up cislunar. I was looking for a general term that people would understand. I've been in more arguments when I was the NASA administrator about the use of the term cislunar space because most people have no clue what we're talking about. So I'm not a person who uses the term cislunar economy. My son has taught me about the space economy, and I'm not an economist or a money person. Deborah is, and so I wanted them to start that way, and then I'll learn something. Okay.
Well, actually, Charlie, it's a really good point that space can come across as really complicated and scary, and that you have to be a rocket scientist, which I happen to be. But when you talk to kids or adults or whatever, it seems really scary and not something accessible. And frankly, I don't use cislunar economy either. I was just on a panel recently talking about the space economy, and there's been the new space economy, the next space economy. Well, frankly, what is economy in space, wherever it is? But as the graphic that Robin showed, really cislunar means it's this side of the moon. So anything between Earth and the moon is fair game. So that can be satellites that we have in low Earth orbit, which are closer to Earth. They go around more frequently, just not all at the same time. That gives us some communications, gives us some information on weather, on images of the Earth that you see in Google Earth or you've seen because of the Ukraine war, etc. You also have the International Space Station, and that's where we're currently doing human space flight. The medium Earth orbit, where we have precision navigation and timing, and then a little farther with geosynchronous orbit, where a lot of our broadcast communication satellites are. So if you're turning on CNN or you're watching a sports game and it's delivered by satellite and there's a little delay, that's because it's so far and it takes a while to get there. But when you look at that distance to the moon, it's even farther. So what are we going to do there? What are the business opportunities that are for commercial space, for national security purposes, for what the government can do, for services and infrastructure that currently are in the realm of our governments, and also recognizing that sort of the insatiable demand that humans have for just exploring what else is out there. Where do you go? Why do you go there? And do you come back? Or maybe not. So I think what we're looking at today is just how to shift into models that are more business focused than government focused. And space is traditionally been the purview of governments. And now there's so much money out there investing in various projects that could operate in space. Not all of them will be successful, but they're all trying, and that we will develop a lot of technology and capability along the way. I really like the concept of the interstellar program of thinking, critical thinking. I usually use systems thinking from a systems engineering standpoint. I think those fields are very similar. And frankly, when you're in a day-to-day environment in a business or anything that you do, critical thinking, how about just thinking? I mean, somebody do, let's just think. And we're so busy today, and the demands are so much, we get distracted by all kinds of stuff and your cell phones and any other electronic devices. People don't think anymore. So I think it's actually a little more basic. I would love people to do critical thinking. I want them to think in a systems way. And frankly, if I just got thinking, I'd be good at that too on some days. So really applaud the work that you're doing and look forward to learning more.
So I was an English major in college and a Russian major. And how the heck did I wind up here? Actually, that's a really good story that some other venue I'll tell, but it involves how Flag Corps got me to here. To me, I'm so glad that Deb brought in kind of the human factor here, because if you think about what it is that we are trying to do with kind of a cislunar economy and a space economy. And particularly if you think about, all right, in order to get to Mars and all the reasons why we want to get to Mars, the moon is a waypoint. And then you think about, Pete and I were talking earlier about how much human imagination it took and how much trial and error it took and learning that it took in order for those early discoverers to go from Europe to North America or to circumnavigate the globe. And the things they learned, like, holy crap, scurvy is a problem, who knew? Those sorts of problems, that sort of discovery, that sort of human curiosity, and let's face it, there's the insatiable desire for discovery, and there's also commerce. Reasons that push us beyond the bounds of our current imagination. So to me, the cislunar economy is all the technology. I mean, it is still hard to get to the moon. It's even harder to get to Mars. And what we need is human imagination. What are those things that we're going to need? We were talking about rest stops in space. Those sorts of, what's that economy going to look like? And it's going to take critical thinking, it's going to take imagination, and it's not necessarily all going to be about science. English and Russian, it's going to take, it's a long trip. You're going to need entertainment just to keep you sane. You're going to need the culinary arts. I met a woman 5 years ago in Silicon Valley who was talking about, I hear that food in space tastes pretty bad.
Not true.
No. Well, and her
you have an opinion of one.
her whole thing was, I want to make food taste better in space. And I went, wow, she's really thinking ahead. Imagination. So to me, the cislunar economy is just, let's stretch the bounds of what we are currently thinking about terrestrially and go, all right, what's next?
No, great points, and I couldn't agree more. If I can probably offer a little bit additional, if we think about what we're calling today the cislunar economy, we'll probably realize that we've been living in the cislunar economy for a long time. I'm not an expert on cislunar or economy, okay? But I've come to understand the power and value of space-based information because of my work as a researcher in hydrology. I research water, and I can tell you that what we understand today about water globally has been facilitated greatly by the research in space that has been done. Remote sensing, satellites, small sats, big sats, medium sats, spicy sats. The same way that we understand better how we grow food globally, how we generate power and energy globally, we have been living on this for a long time. I think the important transition is happening now is that this is going to be opening up to a whole host of other players that have not been there. But the value added proposition of the CIS economy, we've known for a long time.
Fantastic answers. So I think the way that we kind of sum that up is that a cislunar economy really is a broader part of the space economy. And I remember being at a space conference in 2017, and there was a slide that came up that said, do we want to make space a part, or the solar system, a part of the greater economic sphere? Do we want to derive value from off the planet? And the answer for me has always been yes. Yes, we do. We want to see what the value is, and we want to allow that to be the backdrop for opportunities for people to create new companies and grow and continue to really push those boundaries. So in the framework of this backdrop of space where opportunities abound because technology is being pushed, and we're seeing that we need things like rest stops, or we need other creative solutions to maybe like the psychological aspects of long-term travel. We see these companies that are popping up, but really what we want to talk about for this organization is that Gen Z factor. You know, the next generation is the one that's going to be leading the effort on a lot of this. And Charlie, I told you that the next question was probably going to be for you. And when you were at NASA, there was this nexus of commercial companies coming up and taking over what the government was primarily doing in low Earth orbit and in station. And that started to get pushed out now, and the government is going further out to the moon. And so it was backfilled by all of these companies in low Earth orbit. What kind of opportunities do you see now that the government is really pushing out and going to establish humanity in that cislunar area? And then, of course, we know that industry is going to quickly follow with some of the really cool concepts and ideas. What do you see as that opportunity?
I'll try to make it really simple. NASA's budget today is $26 billion. Would anyone want to care how much of that is spent in space? Somebody want to give me a guess? Zero. 80% of it, probably 85% of it, is spent by the same people that are vying for business today, except they're different businesses. It's no longer the big companies, it's now entrepreneurs and everybody else. And I'll go back to what several of the speakers have said. The cislunar economy has been around for a long time. It's just that the way we did it before, NASA controlled the money, sent the money to the marketplace, took the products that were developed and used them and managed them, and the companies just produced what NASA said do. Give me a green thing, give me a blue thing, give me a round thing. We don't do that anymore. We say, give me something that does this job. I want to send 6 people to space. Give me a vehicle that can do that. The only difference between Apollo and today with the International Space Station is NASA is not specific, and we don't try to build it or tell people how to build it and probably get it wrong because they listen to us. We say, give me a vehicle that can send 6 people to space. And you have SpaceX, Blue Origin, companies coming up out of nowhere. So we are fueling the, if I can say so, the cislunar economy. We're just trying to help people understand that you have a role to play, and we're going to give you more decision making. So when Robin talks about wanting kids to be critical thinkers, I'm like Deborah. I just want them to think. If you look at what's going on, and I'll get political here, because if you look at what's going on in the country today, it's because we don't think. We look for somebody else to tell us what to do, or what we should be thinking, or whatever else, and you see where it brings us. Robin is trying to get to the point where your kids and my kids, Gen Z, say, screw all you old guys. You know, you have had your opportunity, you have messed it up, we have got to save the planet. Gen Z, they don't think the way we do. They think about the planet, they think about other people. That's the cislunar economy. How do I take what I'm doing on the moon and make planet Earth better? I always find it humorous, coming from the South, anytime somebody talks about water purification. They always go to, well, you know, in Mississippi, got news for you. We don't understand it in any state in the United States. Look at Detroit, Michigan, look at Flint, Michigan. We have a problem on this planet because we have not been critical thinkers. We have not been thinking about how we solve these problems. And all NASA's tried to do is guide us to use the stuff that that we build and we make other places. So I love NASA's vision, which is let's take all the stuff we do off the planet and make life better here on the planet that we live. There is no planet B. I'll go back to that point. That's so Elon and I differ. There is no plan B, no planet B. This is it. This is the planet that the God in whom I believe intended for us to inhabit. Now, there may be somebody else who's going to inhabit Mars. That's not us. We weren't designed to live there. We were designed to go there and investigate and study and experiment, but not to live there. So let's stop telling kids that they're going to live in a commune on Mars and they're going to die there. If they die there, we failed. Because the last thing I'll say, we have not mentioned communications and communicators, the arts. So Deborah didn't mention it, but her big thing is STEAM. It's not STEM. We use the term STEM plus AD, arts and design. I got enough scientists, believe it or not, and engineers. I don't have people who can tell the story, who can explain to members of Congress or to all of us sitting in this room why that $26 billion is really important and why we should keep pumping it out to companies like NanoRacks and Axiom and companies we haven't even heard of yet. Because if we don't get that message out, Congress is going to start, Deborah mentioned Congress, the dreaded Congress, or somebody mentioned, they play a role. And unless we have communicators, people who can talk to them and explain to them why this cislunar economy is important to society, we're not going anywhere. So that's your challenge, is create people who are going to go to Congress as communicators, or people who are going to come to NASA as communicators, or go into government or big business as communicators.
Awesome. Does anybody have anything they want to add to that?
Go to another one.
Go to another one? Another question, or just another panelist? Okay. We'll kind of wrap things up. I know that 2:15. Oh no, we will. Don't worry. I got one more question up my sleeve. And then we'll kind of wrap things up. I know that people are probably ready to move on with the Monday, which is not fun. But
There's dessert and the giveaway.
okay, dessert and the giveaway too. So the last thing I would say is we've kind of targeted this Gen Z as the next generation. How do we get them excited about the things that we are pursuing today so that that momentum continues and we see the type of progress that we're trying to set them up for in order to go out further and further into the expanse? Is that, want to start at the end of the table?
Yeah, you go. I'm changing my meeting.
Okay, so here we go. Yeah, so since we're talking about us Gen Zs, no, sorry. Did I say that out loud? Sorry. No, I think I'll give you the perspective of working with university students and also trying to build a pipeline of students that will be interested in the cis space economy, right? And cislunar economy. And I think the possibilities there are endless because when you're at that stage of your life, and all of us in this room were in that stage of our lives at one point or the other, we're able to take more risks. We're able to push the boundaries. And I think the challenges that the cislunar economy is putting behind us is going to require us to do that. So it's not going to be us in the room doing this. It's going to be that new generation. So for us at Mason and for pretty much everyone who is educating the new generation of students, this is a tremendous challenge, and we welcome it with open arms. I can tell you that at Mason we are, as Robin pointed out, we are building a program. We're investing in facilities. We're investing in infrastructure because we see this as an investment in the future, which is what universities are all about.
So Vint put it really well in the video snippet where he said kids care about dinosaurs in space. Yeah, they do. To keep that interest up through from that early interest, particularly through those challenging teenage years, and continue to inspire them. I think we have to show them. Now, Charles said earlier, the kids today care about the planet. I mean, that's a pretty compelling, as far as inspiring kids into this field of study, I think they're kind of naturally drawn to it. So it's just a matter of let's continue to stoke those fires. I said I wasn't going to tell this story, but now I am. I was on the Flag Corps in Central Florida, so we kind of grew up around NASA and space. It was 1986. Russia was in the glasnost period. My high school marching band was invited to perform in the Soviet Union. 30 years later, I retire from the intelligence community. I mean, there's a big 30-year gap there. But that experience of introducing me to the Soviet Union and getting me interested in Russian language and international relations directly led to my career, which is why I think the Interstellar Dream Center is so important, because it's going to show these kids, keep that interest going, show them this is what's possible. This is what, with the simulations in particular, this is really what's possible. And I think it's going to really inspire kids to continue in the field.
Thanks for sharing that, Christy. We probably have a lot to talk about. I lived and worked in Russia after the Cold War, helping to facilitate collaborative projects with the former Soviet Union to keep the scientists working for the good guys, not the bad guys. That is what led to bringing Russia into the International Space Station program, and a lot of collaboration on engines and rockets and human spaceflight and various other technologies. So there's lots of stories there. But you just inspired me a memory, which when I went to Russia, young, female, engineer, and everybody thought, including my own bosses at the time, that I would ruin it because they were not going to take a woman seriously or a young person seriously, and by the way, it was not safe for women to go either. So all these things kind of thrown at me. And when I got there, I realized, so I am a communicator, I am a people person. I'd had some exposure with the International Space University when it was first formed in the late 80s, and we had worked with all different cultures, including the Soviet students who had their handlers, Chinese students right after Tiananmen Square. I mean, it was this super dynamic period and trying to figure out, and yet what we could do together, and yet everybody spoke space. So the aha moment, thinking about kids, and the way I like to share with young girls and boys, is science and math. It's a language, and it's a way of speaking to each other. It's an international language. So is music. So is art. And when you start thinking of people working together, which is what we need for space, because that cislunar, I mean, it's all of us as a humanity, and making it less scary. That being smart, if you like math and science and you're put in the smart kids program, or the girls don't want to be so smart, or it's intimidating, they need to see role models, of course, and they need to know that it's maybe just another way of communicating with people. You use math, everybody knows math. Physics, everybody knows physics. I mean, it's the same no matter what country you live in. So kind of shifting our thinking in how we collaborate, how we communicate, and just finding something common. And the way that I worked successfully in Russia is because I spoke the rocket equation. So, well, then therefore, you're good. We understand you. And you talk about the weather, or music, as I said. So there's other ways to bring humanity together in that thinking. And that is a nice way for kids to think about it a little differently, maybe not so intimidating, going to the point of how we communicate and how we create and innovate.
Okay, so I think that wrapping up some of these comments, I'm going to get away from that speaker. Deborah just touched on something really important, and that is the idea of representation matters, and I can speak to that a little bit. So about 15 years ago, when I was an intern down in New Mexico at Spaceport America, I met many of the people in the space industry, including Deborah. And seeing Deborah on panels and seeing Deborah speak about the future of space, we were really talking about low Earth orbit at that point, but seeing that really allowed me to visualize myself in this industry as well. And I think that that's very important to be able to say that I see people in the space industry from every single background, and that representation at the microphone is a really powerful thing, because when you have good things to say, people allow you to speak. And I think that when our kids and the next generation see that there are a multitude of people speaking and really driving these things forward, starting companies, everything, that's really what's going to be the biggest driver of diversity in the industry. With that, I think, Robin, we might wrap up so we can go on to some of the other really cool things. Does anybody have any final thoughts that they want to share? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, and thank you, Robin.
All righty, thank you so much. I hope that we were able to bribe you enough to want to hear from us again. And hear from us means Kevin and of our team leaders, Luis, Jessica, Brian, got other folk that are here. We're going to reach out to you, right? We're going to reach out to you for either fidelity of information. We're going to reach out to you for a check. We're going to reach out to you for some sponsorship opportunities. And what I like the most is collaborative. What could we do together? I think most of us enjoyed today, but what else could we do that could be a little bit different? And so, and yes, we're definitely going to do something special for girls and women. We had a suggestion to work with high schoolers. Just imagine we had a room filled with 1,400 high schoolers to hear and meet the people that are here, to meet you, right? Yes, we have a distinguished panel, but they need to know you. They need to know that there are other ways of looking at this. And so I agreed with Mr. Bolden that when you're working with Gen Z, they're thinking, you've already messed this up already. Why should we listen to you? I do believe, even though with my gray hair, I do think I've experienced some things. I'd like to share them, but I also want to listen, because they might have a different way of doing it. And so what I'm asking you is to join the movement. Get involved with us so we can plan activities that would feature your company. We would be glad. We've got plenty of people that are creative. Let's go ahead and integrate the arts, music, into our message. I think we do that together, which I call collaborative leadership. And if you have questions for me or anyone on our team, we will be available. We will be reaching out to you personally, one-on-one, to customize what we do together. And if you have any questions, we'll hang around, and thank you.
From the very beginning, the strength of the organization was volunteers who were giving their time and energy to make the airport all that it could be.
For 55 years, we've been advocates for transportation infrastructure for the airport and the region.
I have an article that's in the memoirs of Hal Launders, and it says rail to Dulles in 72, believe it or not. Look how long it's taken.
It wasn't just the federal funds that were involved, local funds had to be involved. So it was a question of how was Fairfax and eventually Loudon going to pay their share.
The landowners around Tyson's Corner finally realized that they needed rail through Tyson's.
And they came up with a special tax district for all the businesses that owned property along where the rail was going to be.
That concept went on to phase 2 of Dulles Rail with the Dulles Corridor tax district.
We worked with other organizations to encourage continued support from the business community and the state of Virginia in their participation.
We spent time in Richmond lobbying for what we were trying to accomplish. We did position papers on local and statewide issues and testified before local and state agencies and the legislature.
Going down to Congress and meeting with congressmen and women down there to try to make sure that they heard our voices and knew how important this was.
The Committee for Dulles has become an important part of the community. Elected officials rely on us, the public relies on us. We're able to see issues and educate people about land use decisions, economic development, and other growth potentials for the airport, which are going to benefit all of us.
Well, it's been a terrifically consistent in its advocacy over time, supporting both the airport, rail access, road access to the airport, the growth of cargo traffic, and the growth of passenger traffic.
During my term, they were just beginning, or just in the middle of construction for the phase 1 of the interchange project on Route 28. That's something to celebrate. We worked on that for years. Now that project is complete.
We worked very closely with the Smithsonian to try to do whatever we could to ensure that the Air and Space Museum become located in the Dulles corridor.
The official announcement of the building of the Air and Space Museum was done in May of 1999 by Admiral Ingen, the head of the Air and Space Museum, and he did it at a Committee for Dulles luncheon. In fact, there was someone that was in attendance when it was over that donated $1 million to the Air and Space Museum that day.
We have maintained or gained international recognition from markets outside of our country. Most famously is the Frankfurt Airport.
We met with teams from Geneva, Switzerland, who wanted to know how a community organization can help the airport. We also met with teams from Paris, France, about how to connect two airports and citizen engagement and public advocacy to the benefit of the economic development of a nation's capital's airports.
When you look at the airport itself, it's tough to think about 12,000 acres as having a sense of community. It's an awful large area. It's a huge amount of land area, infrastructure, employees, but every event that is held either by the authority, by the airport, or through the committee events, you really get a sense of pride and contribution to the community.
Our events are there to promote and foster the growth of Dulles Airport and to keep the communities aware and educate them on the future economic development of the airport and its environs.
If it's a luncheon, or if it's a gala, or if it's another event, you'll have a significant representation of the various industries in our region, and it gives us an opportunity to share not only what we do, but how we can help them.
I asked the question, is there any way we could leverage this group to help the community? And that's when the Committee for Dulles Community Outreach was born.
Number one priority would be to give scholarships to deserving high school seniors.
Every year we give 15, 20 plus scholarships to students, all who are connected to Dulles Airport.
And then we also supported the Interfaith Chapel and the Traveler's Aid organizations at the airport.
100% of the money that the outreach committee raises goes back to the community.
Whether it's the Community Outreach Scholarship Fund or the run on the runway or the plane pool, you really get a sense that this is a tight community that supports itself.
The relevance of the Committee for Dulles is more important today than ever because of the growth in international business and the growth in data centers in this area. We have become an even bigger economic engine, and not just the airport, but the services that are around the airport and all of the national and international companies that have headquartered here.
Okay, here we are. We've accomplished so much. What is it that we want to accomplish working with the airport? How do we move forward as a partner with the airport?
The pandemic, in my mind, forced us to be more creative, forced us to be more innovative, and to move forward with the way that we touched the community.
Obviously, with the pandemic over the last years, there's been some erosion in passenger loads, passenger frequency, flights, and what have you. So there's the opportunity to try to continue the path upward to the ultimate capacity of the airport, which I'm told is in the range of 55 million passengers per year.
And as you have more planes, it can impact residential areas to a greater extent. So we are a strong supporter of making sure that our local communities do not enact land use decisions that put people in the flight path of oncoming or departing airplanes. That's something that we try to work on, as well as the ground transportation for access to and from the airport beyond rail.
We still see a continuing role for Committee for Dulles, someone who's looking at the airport and always trying to think, how can this get better? How can we improve Dulles to become part of an even bigger part of the Washington economy?
My expectation is the Committee for Dulles will go on for many years to come.
Hello, I'm Don Frickel, and I'm honored to be the current president of Share Incorporated. Share Incorporated is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization dedicated to helping the less fortunate in Great Falls, McLean, Pimmit Hills, and parts of Falls Church.
Our operations are totally dependent on volunteers and private donations, since we have no paid staff, no contractors, and we receive no government funding.
Thanks to the generosity of our donors and volunteers, last year we provided assistance to more than 1,500 households containing about 4,000 family members, mostly children.
We live in a very expensive area. My husband is a hard worker and I work too, but it's not enough for paying the bills.
My fiancée was diagnosed with brain cancer, and shortly after that, when she was going through her treatment, I found out that I had a faulty heart valve and a bum kidney. Shortly after that, after I came home from the hospital, she passed. And it was just me and my son. What more could I lose? And it was my job next because of the recession.
Share's most visible activity is our food pantry and used clothing room. These facilities operate in donated space at the McLean Baptist Church.
It's a service that allows people to maintain their dignity. It's a service that they're not afraid to come and ask for help.
It's very helpful. Every month, I come 2 times a month because I really need the help.
Share currently provides 1,000 bags of food and 225 bags of used clothing to clients per month. Since virtually all of these materials are donated by the community, it takes a large number of food drives and volunteer hours to maintain these levels of support.
The thought of anyone hungry, particularly children, breaks my heart. So food is where I felt called to serve, and that's where I've been for the last 12 years.
Share provides financial assistance to distressed households primarily to ward off evictions and utility shutoffs.
They can pay part of the rent, but not all of the rent. Or they can't pay the water bill, but they'll pay the electric bill, and then sooner or later it catches up with them.
I got a phone call from one of the folks at Share, and they said, she said on the other line, she says, Tim, we'd like to help you get your gas back on. We had a little heater in the back, and that's where we'd bunker down at. You know, and now that the house had heat blowing out the registers again, it was, you take that stuff for granted. You know, we all do. But when something happens in your life and you lose the basic needs, you know, it's great to have someone that step in and help you.
SHARE operates a furniture program through which it provides donated furniture to needy families. Each Saturday, volunteer crews operate 2 trucks to conduct these activities. Last year, we made more than 500 pickups and deliveries, providing furnishings to more than 200 households, including about 600 household members, mostly children. SHARE provides rebuilt computers and printers to client families with school-aged children. This work is conducted by technically qualified high school-age volunteers.
More and more FCPS and other local area students have been requesting laptops because they need them for class. In fact, a lot of our classes have homework done online, so having a laptop is critical.
Our technology group also helps maintain our website and our client database. SHARE also runs a number of special events for clients, including food distributions at Thanksgiving and a major holiday event in December, including music, light refreshments, a visit by Santa Claus, and gifts tailored to family needs. We also distribute school supplies and provide haircuts to children of client families in August so that students are ready for school.
What's unique about SHARE is that we really get to know our clients, and so it's easy for us to help find resources for individual people rather than just general resources.
I really, really appreciate the help.
It was a hand up, what SHARE did for me. It wasn't just a handout. It's the difference.
From the canned food drives to the the clothing drive that they have to the furniture donations that we get, there are numerous ways that you can participate in the various SHARE programs and give back to the community.
I just want to say thank you and thank you and thank you, always, always, yeah.
Donations that we receive come from participating faith communities, individuals, local businesses, and institutions like the McLean Community Foundation. Just as important as funding, though, is our ongoing need for new volunteers.
Volunteering, it's just not all about helping other people. It really does have the effect of improving and enhancing your life in many, many ways.
When you help a family get back on their feet, you're helping the community because they're giving back. I really do believe that.
And it's very gratifying. It is. It's so gratifying to see people. What can I do?
If you think you might be interested, please check out our website or contact us directly. SHARE provides training and orientation for new volunteers. Thank you very much for supporting SHARE.